What is going on, you guys? It's your boy, Chatticus Bradicus here, and we're back with episode 50 of the video game therapy series. Yeah, I generally try not to abide by the general nice round numbers, milestone type videos, but I'll indulge it this time as I have in my in the past, because it is a nice mathematical place to stop. So yeah, we're episode 50. So this one's going to be a little bit different. I basically, through a culmination of just kind of watching a few minutes of my other episodes, as well as just compiling a list of quotes and ideas and things from my other things, I'm basically doing 50 quotes or one-liners or things that I just want to share. They're not really under the heading of any kind of advice or anything like that. They're mostly just 50 random things. I've kind of categorized them into three main buckets that might help, I don't know, make some sense of them at a high level, but generally they are otherwise mostly random pieces of quotes, and I won't really be sticking by the strict timeline as I often do in these videos, where maybe this one's a little short, maybe it's a little long, I'm not sure, but I'm giving myself about a minute for each, at least average out to a minute for each, to give the episode generally where it lies. So anyway, so I have three main categories. The first category is fight the power / technology bad. So I don't really, I think those are kind of self-explanatory. These are kind of anti-establishment, or at least anti-normal stuff, or just anti-technology, I suppose, as a sub bucket of that. But looks like I have 13 in this category out of the 50. So a good chunk of the first some are in this category. So yeah, first little quote I have this is from Terry Davis, who's the creator of Temple OS. Not that I think he's a great model of anything, but he did have this wonderful one-liner, and it is that an idiot admires complexity, but a genius admires simplicity, which couldn't agree more. We tend to overcomplicate things to an extent that is more or less justify our own intelligence in some way, but sometimes the simpler something, you can say something, or the simpler something can be represented, is a more representation of genius than it would be to make something overly complex. There's not really going to be a narrative, crafted by these quotes either. They're literally just going to be mostly random, jumping from one thing to the next. Some will be related to one another, others won't. So I am feeling a bit under the weather too. So if I do sound nasally, then sorry, but I'm not sorry. Anyway, that's our first quote. The second quote is I believe it is from the Center for Humane Technology, and it is that modern humans have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, but godlike technology, which I think is kind of goes right along with the premise of technology bad. I just think, not since it is bad inherently, I just think we are using it and implicating it in ways that make it difficult, because again, we have, like they say in this quote, Paleolithic emotions and medieval institutions. And I don't think these exacerbating any of those. Like I've talked in the past about how our emotions are very, very similar to that of our genetic ancestors, as much as we might try to fight that idea and act like we have some inbuilt logic that is so powerful. No, our logic is weak, incredibly weak when compared to something that is purely logical that we've created, like computers. Our logic pales in comparison, and it is our emotions are very much illogical. So I don't know. I just really agree with that quote. The third one is kind of one I came up with. Maybe I did. I think I don't know where else I heard this, but I think I generated this one on my own. I'm not really sure, so I'm not going to bother trying to hunt down credits for this. But I say, if you consume what others consume, you will think what others think and do what others do. And what I mean by that is kind of being a nonconformist is in your own best interest regardless, because especially if you don't really like what you see in others, it doing what they do, you're gonna most likely gonna get what they're gonna get. It's not like you can expect different results entirely doing much of the same and consuming much of the same. So I just think really what you are is what you eat, and if you copy your neighbor's diet in a sense, not the actual diet, but their diet in terms of their consumption habits of any kind. Mostly just I'm referring to media here and technology because that's kind of the MO of this part. You'll think what they think, and you'll do what they do. And so you see a lot of, I don't know, very regular or predictable thought, only because people all consume the same shit. So you're not really, I don't see how you're supposed to get different ideas together from much of the same content. I think a lot of times it requires people consuming alternative forms and alternative pieces of content to generate any kind of new meaningful idea. So I don't know, very much a proponent of going off of the mainstream. After enough time, you'll grow to despise your users. And what this means is a reference to people that develop technologies, especially who, because we exist in an economy where you need to create value, or perceived value, as I like to say, for users, especially software developers and people that create, I don't know, commercial software for people. You eventually just grow to hate what people respond to and how they respond well to it. In a lot of ways, this comes back to the Paleolithic emotions that I was kind of harping on earlier. And I hate the fact that it's we're so predictable sometimes in our emotional response to things, myself included. I don't absolve myself from this at all. I think it's just frustrating that we we've discovered so much about humanity and humans, and yet we just use it to sell them garbage that they don't need, which is frustrating. But anyway, number 5, along these same lines, the world can stay irrational longer than you can stay sane, and this kind of just means, I think, part of embracing a stoic response in some senses to things is really all you can do, because as much as you might try to fight institutional or social powers of any kind, you'll eventually just lose to the whims of everything else because they are in aggregate more powerful than you as an individual. So it's often it's you versus the world sometimes, especially if you try to go against the grain. So it's often a losing battle. So like I said, the world can stay irrational longer than you can stay sane. I heard that quote from somewhere. That was not an original one, but anyway. Number 6, why use your principles to defend people who obviously don't share them, which I think is interesting. Some people kind of die on certain hills when they realize the people that they are fighting for, or the group sometimes that they're fighting for, don't even share even their basic instinctual interests at hand, which immediately put them at odds with who they're trying to defend in some ways. So it's always worth reconsidering whether or not what you're so passionately fighting about, whatever that might be, whether or not they even care, and I'm being very general in this sense, just because it's difficult to get specifics in an example like this. But generally, I think the quote is interesting and very applicable in a lot of political ways. But yeah, the quote again, in case you need me to repeat it: why use your principles to defend people who obviously don't share them? So anyway, not really related to that, but I guess similar in some ways. Number 7 is consensus does not mean truth. And I think this goes back even to pre-scientific areas. Just because there's a consensus on something does not mean it's the truth. And it's easy to look at something as historic as ancient religions where they believe that there was some giant chicken or something calling the shots, or they would sacrifice babies to the weather or something like that. Obviously there was a consensus that was the way that it worked. Otherwise, they wouldn't be sacrificing babies for the rain gods or something. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. And I have my own kind of I guess beef with the whole truth concept as we look at it today anyway. But just because there's a consensus on something does not necessarily mean that it is anything factual or something that you have to wholeheartedly believe. So some of this is still kind of this nonconformist attitude. But anyway, 8, this is just a common one around statistics that I think is really, I don't know, it's just right, I think. All models are wrong, some are useful. And I think this just means that as much as you can, look at the data, look at this graph I made. I think making, a graph is nice, but it isn't, again, it might be useful in trying to drive your point home, but you can make a graph or something to support pretty much any position possible, right? I'm sure you can make a graph to support an argument on eugenics or something ridiculous, which of course no one would agree with, but you could do it, right? And so it's not to say that just because there's a graph all of a sudden, or just because there's data that like points in a direction means that it's certainly like a fact, true, and it's gospel. I think it's worthy being skeptical. So I think this kind of reflects that attitude that I have towards, especially like data-driven arguments people have. Just, look at the data, look at the data. Again, like I said, you can have data to support pretty much anything you want. If you massage the data enough, or you take a small enough sample size or something. There's all kinds of little hacks you can do to make data, speak your story, which is unfortunate that that's really the function that it plays. But anyway, number 9, madness is rare in individuals, but in groups, parties, and nations, it is the rule. This kind of is similar to one where it says that like in the individual, a man is I believe he's like a statistical anomaly or something, but in the aggregate, he is like a statistical certainty or something like that. I don't know. It's one of my friends' good quotes that he likes a lot. But yeah, this one is good too. I think especially in the sense that using the term madness, but in because I do think sometimes we look at our institutions and in our as they say here, groups, parties, and nations, and we it's just assumed because so many people. There's safety in numbers that what they're saying must be certainly isn't mad because so many people share these opinions and agree with them. But I think this is really just again kind of reflects that nonconformist attitude that just because a bunch of people are doing something just doesn't mean that that's like fact or it's the right way to do it, or just because it's against the status quo doesn't mean that it's wrong. So anyway, I like that quote as a reflection of that attitude. Similar to that, but on maybe a more individual level, is that number 10, brilliant thinking is rare, but courage is in even shorter supply than genius. And so what I think that means is that there might be there's I think a lot more brilliance out there, kind of just collecting dust, so to speak, than we like to imagine. But I think the audacity or the they say courage here. I would just say even just being bold. They say fortune favors the bold, but there's just a lack of boldness, even more so than genius. And that's why I see even people that are stupid, who are just bold, ends up whatever they want to do, they end up accomplishing it, whether it's something good or bad. They a lot of times end up meeting their goal, whether or not it's for the benefit of everyone else. But regardless, they were just bold. They weren't even brilliant and bold. They were stupid and bold. So, but yeah, I think that's a great one. Again, it's brilliant thinking is rare, but courage is even in even shorter supply than genius. But same with, this is kind of fight the power-esque type thing, but number 11, you might be CEO in your building, but at the gas station you are a nobody, which I agree with. This just kind of means that I don't care. Even if you're the president, I don't care. A lot of people don't care, especially if you go to any kind of gas station in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. It doesn't matter what you look like. And this kind of just extends beyond the gas station analogy of it, and more so that just most people don't care about who you are, what you've done in some other setting, but in a very neutral setting where kind of, it's human versus human, almost just the basics of, monkeys exchanging things. At a gas station, you're nobody. You're reduced to your lowest common denominator of just another human. So no one cares. But anyway. Number 12, man is born free and everywhere is in chains. I think this is like an Emerson quote. Maybe not Emerson, but somebody. But still one that I certainly agree with, and I think is powerful, just because I think we've created so much structure, which has resulted in a lot of good things. We have this organized science and everything like that, but in terms of the freedom of the individual, I think we have a long way to go, or at least we've gone back a long way. We've kind of retracted a lot of individual freedoms in sacrifice for more institutional progress, but sometimes it's worth stepping back and thinking about whether what was worth it or not. So I don't know. But yeah, I really like that quote. I think it's certainly powerful. And then the last one in the fight the power / technology bad segment is that if you do not use tools, they use you. And I think that's just true of like just machinery in general. I apply this to software. So again, there's a saying in the free software movement that if software either controls the users or the users control the software, and free and open source software is controlled by the users, so the users control the software. But if it is proprietary, then it controls the users. So again, you either use tools, you're able to use them, or they use you. And the unfortunate part about non-free software is that you don't have the option of not using. Like, it's one thing to have the source code but not be able to audit it or not know what it does or anything like that. It's another thing not even be able to do that at all. Like, the capacity to do it is inhibited by the fact that it's proprietary. So I think that's kind of an extension of this point that I think is particularly potent in our cyberpunk dystopia that we live in today. But anyway, so that's all 13 of my fight the power / technology bad quotes. Some of these kind of overlap into a lot of different categories, but those were the ones I had in those. Again, I didn't think this out too much, really. It was kind of some of this was mostly a haphazard effort at the last second. But anyway, my next segment is some great, more ancient quotes, some philosophy-based quotes, some from Stoicism, from some cynicism, or some that just reflect those ideas, not necessarily from that time period, but I think these are ones that really point at those, more so than the previous ones or the ones to come after. But number 14 is the first one in this category, and it is hopelessness more than pain that crushes the soul. And I think that is especially true. I think hopelessness as a concept is all the more potent than something, as pain. In a lot of ways, I think pain is all temporal, right? It's easy, but hopelessness can be perpetual and can be just never ending. So I don't know. Certainly agree with that quote. Number 15, to be great is to be misunderstood. And again, some of this just comes back to nonconformity as a general idea. Certainly something that I identify with in that way. Not to say that if you are misunderstood, you are great, but in order to be great, you must be misunderstood to some level, which I think is profound on some levels. So, yeah. Let's see. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. I think this is a quote from Marcus Aurelius or something like that, but I certainly think we are prisoners of our own mind in a lot of ways. A lot of our problems and all of our things are all imagined. We're not often suffering from something like starvation. We have all these kind of imagined problems, and even more so than in the days that he generated this quote. I think it's even more so prevalent today, where people just kind of invent things to worry about. And I've talked about that a lot. Is that a lot of people's problems are just so trivial and stupid that they're almost laughably synthetic. They're not. These aren't real problems. But certainly something that I agree with on that end. Saving time is never as important as cherishing it. I'm not sure where this comes from, but I agree with it as well. Some people try to venerate the act of saving time in and of itself, but they often spend so much time worried about saving time and productivity and things. And I'm guilty of this myself, but they lose the fact that cherishing time, period, is more important than any amount of saving it. So I certainly agree with that. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully I don't start saying that too much, because I think it should be evident that I agree with all of these. Otherwise I wouldn't have put them in here, but whatever. And number 18, this is my quote kind of thing. I just think it kind of fits in with this theme, is that the key to life is balance. Hard and fast rules die hard and they die fast. Meaning that, I think people that are extremists on any kind of level, whether it's, religious extremism or an ideological extremism where they hate all of one thing, or they just kind of you're very strict about groupings into bads and goods, and these activities are bad, these activities are good, or are often, they often play at odds with I don't know, our internal psyche, and just a kind of a holistic, happy life or fulfilling life as a whole. The happy life is not something I totally stand by, but I think just having hard and fast rules is kind of dumb. I think being flexible is to be alive. I don't know. modularity and pivoting is important. You never know, because you're a coin flip away from a life that you don't see right now. So I don't know. Number 19, life is a long race and nobody wins. And that's kind of cynical, I think, even like cynical with a lowercase c, in the sense that, oh, everyone's going to die, boohoo. But part of this is I think just is optimistic in some way, is that, as much as your problems and your things seem so important, and they, it seems like you got all this treacherous, I don't know, road to go through, but in the end, it's just a really long race, and no one wins when they're dead, right? Everyone just dies. There's not like a totem pole, you said. I mean, unless you have some, belief in the afterlife where, you have to rack up a certain amount of money or something like that. But I don't really subscribe to any of those afterlife theories where you have to do enough good stuff or do stuff in your current life, because I think that's making a game of it, which is kind of making a mockery of the human condition as a whole. I don't know. I have a lot of just a philosophical disagreement with a lot of afterlife claims, so I think it's best to approach it this way. But I suppose to each their own. But this is just, again, my opinion, so whatever. Number 20, I think this is from, I'm not sure who this is from. This is from a guy who wrote Huckleberry Finn, I think. I'm not sure. Either way, he says, I cannot remember the books I've read any more than the meals I've eaten. Even so, they have made me. And I think that's part of just is just a good mentality to have, is not necessarily that, I have to remember every word or I have to absorb everything, or have like, all my memories and things all documented and everything. Some things are just, worth being forgotten, but it's not in the sense they haven't done anything to you. Just because they're forgotten doesn't mean they're useless. I think even things that are forgotten, whether it be memories or books or, I guess books are just kind of memories in some way, but I don't think it's totally useless in the sense that just because they're forgotten, they're no longer of use. But anyway, I like that quote. Number 21, never ascribe to malice, which is adequately described by incompetence. So this is just, assuming the best in people. I tend to, it might sound like I think just everyone's an idiot all the time, but I don't truly think that. I think that a lot of people are just mistaken, and whether it's, I'm frustrated that they are mistaken, in the sense that it's incompetence and not malice, but sometimes it is hard to give people the benefit of the doubt. But I think it's worth trying, at least whether or not I'm good at living by this. But I think it's certainly worth trying. But anyway, number 22, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And some of this is just, I don't know, kind of living a bold, audacious life, and not succumbing to pressure only because it's convenient or it is the way that everyone else is doing stuff. So again, I believe like this. I'd rather, what are you willing to sacrifice for your pride? And for me, it's not worth living a life on my knees. I'd rather die on my feet and standing on what I believe in. So I think part of that's just, I think it's just a healthy attitude to have. Kind of this non-slave mentality. But whatever. Number 23, if you have a why to live, then you can bear almost any how. This really brings it back to the first one, saying it's hopelessness more than pain that crushes the soul. Because, like I said, if you have a reason why you're doing something, I mean, you can look at it in a number of the wars throughout history, and it's not like, from an individual perspective, the cost-benefit analysis would have been like, dude, why am I fighting this? This is so dumb. But the thing is, their why, why the soldiers were fighting and all these, and pick any conflict. Their why was often a tie to a nation state or a religious entity or some individual or some governance that was so much more powerful than any amount of pain that they could bear, that they chose to battle. I don't know. So I think that just kind of outlines the perspective that if you have a true purpose behind something, you can bear almost any amount of pain behind it. So it's, that's, again, it's kind of pain's kind of a temporal thing that comes and goes, but a deeper purpose is something that is much more powerful than any individual instance of pain or misfortune. But number 24, the willing are led by fate and the reluctant are dragged. So some of this that's kind of a stoicism idea where, whether it be fate or whatever you call it, luck, fortuna, depending on your backstory and your etymological preference, could be any number of things. But It's often we try to control it to an extent where we are pissed off when it doesn't work out the way we want, or that the world's against us or something. But again, I think adopting this attitude is a healthier way to look at it. So the willing are led by force, the reluctant are dragged. Not to say that you just go wherever the wind blows you, kind of thing, but especially if there's a certain amount of fighting with I guess the world, or again, fate or fortuna, or luck or God, or whatever your kind of RNG role of your life is. Fighting with that is often a losing battle. So this kind of ropes into the first section a little bit on there. But anyway, it's a nice quote. I like it. Number 25, don't compare yourself to anyone. Comparison is a thief of joy. And this is kind of an amendment that I've added on. Especially never compare yourself to the average person, whether that be the average American or the average person in any context, because it's often a lose-lose, right? I mean, like, if you think about what the average American is, whether it's in terms of intelligence or height, or athletic prowess, or income or something, it's always a lose-lose, right? In the sense that let's say you're below average on something. I mean, that's got to be a kick to the ego like nothing else. But even if you're above average, you're not even, who you're better at. You're better than average Joe, which is not really something to write home about. So, I don't know. I just would never. I think comparison in general is a really stupid concept, but especially comparing yourself to average. Oh, look at the average salary. I'm making, more. It's like, dude, the average person is a fucking joke. So, what, really, why are you comparing yourself to them? So, I don't know. It's kind of a, that compares yourself to other people, and especially to an average person, I think is a loser. So, sorry. But anyway, it's a very average thing to do, is to compare yourself to an average person. But anyway. Along those same lines, number 26. I'm sorry, I had to get a drink of water. Good is the enemy of great, and perfect is the enemy of great, good, and anything, really. So, good is the enemy of great is a very common one, but I kind of tacked on this perfect is the enemy of them all, in the sense that, perfection is something that can really hinder your progress towards anything at all, right? If you even have an idea of perfect behind something, that you're often not going to do anything, or it's going to be so small that you won't risk anything. So, I don't know. I just would never try to focus on perfect, or even just great. I would just try to really doing something is better than doing nothing. And I think, striving for perfection is what can kill that faster than anything. And this is mostly from personal experience I'm speaking with. It's not like I'm some clinical psychologist saying this. I just struggle with the perfectionism holding effort back, which is not the way it should be, right? I think a perfect effort is something that could be striven for, but even that is a weak effort is okay sometimes. A perfect effort often sometimes results in waiting for this perfect time, or perfect inspiration, which is all just a ploy to waste your time. So I don't know. It's kind of a mind game at that point. Yeah. So that is 26. So I think that was the end of that bucket. This last bucket, which is I guess the true buckets part, is these are just my bucket one-liners or my bucketisms, whatever you want to call it. These are just, whoops, that was an accident. Different things that I've, ideas and things that I've culminated over my own time and my own videos and things. And I've tried to bring the ones together I thought were, I don't know, the most interesting or applicable or something. But anyway, here goes. Oh, God, that's annoying. Number 27. Stop giving so many fucks. This is pretty simple. Most things and most people are just not worth it, not worth your fucks. So you only have a limited number of them. So why? I mean, there's just a lot of things that I can look at and very confidently say this is just not worth your effort or time or just attention at all. So just stop giving so many fucks about a lot of things, especially things that are stupid. You're just, kind of holding on for. I'm not even sure what you're holding on for, but anyway, yeah, just stop giving so many fucks. I think more often than not, I think I can give that advice confidently, knowing that people tend to be giving too many fucks about things. It's not often that I, I would give somebody the advice of give more fucks. I think it's certainly there are cases where that's applicable, where I'm like, dude, you gotta you should care more about things. But it's often the opposite. People often care way too much about the dumbest shit. So I don't know. That's kind of my general advice. Again, without knowing anyone's personal circumstances, to start giving less fucks. Number 28, money is for morons. I don't know. This is just kind of my general apathy towards finances and money as a whole thing. I just think especially the fact that most of us are doing just fine. Like most of us are going to eat. We're going to have a place to live. We're going to be able to buy, a shirt if we need it or something. How many shirts do you need? People have to wear too many shirts anyway. But money is, after a certain point, which is much, much less than people think, money is just a dick measuring tool, right? And who cares? No one cares. I don't care how big your dick is. I don't care how much money you have. It really doesn't matter. So, I don't know. I just kind of think money is for morons. People that spend all their time dicking around with how much money they have and this and that, and money, are either insecure or they're just bored. They have nothing else to worry about, so they have to, try to accumulate as much capital as possible. But, as much as a humanitarian they might plead themselves to be, they often are getting money at the expense of others. So how much of a humanitarian are they really? So I don't know. I just think money is for morons. 29, God don't play games with dice. I think this was a, like from Nietzsche or something, as like, God don't play dice games, I think is the original quote. But I think God don't play games with dice is a little bit, rolls off the tongue a little bit better. And it's kind of my adaptation of of that. It wasn't my original like that. I wasn't, obviously I wasn't the original author of that, but even I wasn't my original exposure to that quote was back in high school with some buddies. So it's not like I, came up with that myself. It was a quote that's been circling in my social circles for a while, which I just think is funny and is awesome. God don't play games with dice, or God don't play dice games, I think is the actual quote, but whatever. Number 30, think like an artist, do like an engineer, and act like a businessman. This is kind of one of my more corpo advice pieces here. And I think we often tend to fit the culture so well of whatever our, day-to-day stuff is, right? If we're a graphic designer and artist, we have to always be and act like an artist and do all this stuff. And if we're an engineer, we got to be an engineer and basically be an autist in every conceivable way. And businessmen are the same way. We always got to be closing sales or something, always be closing ABC, whatever. I think a lot of it's just, I think there are merits to all of them, right? So why not marry them? So I think in my ways and the way I think about my own work, whatever that work might be, again, there's no definition to what my work is. It's not in a individual bucket. But I kind of work on the cadence of an artist, inspiration and bouts of creativity and bouts of energy and enthusiasm come and go. Much like, I don't know, much to my own dismay. I wish it were a constant stream, but it's not. But my thought patterns beyond that are engineering, problem solving, dissecting it one by one, and then in the end, my solution or my forward facing, or my front end is that of the businessman, which is putting your best foot forward, smile and wave, that kind of thing. So I think just kind of marrying them is a powerful concept in and of itself. So again, my quote with this is, think like an artist, do like an engineer, and act like a businessman. So I don't know. That's kind of my quote on that. Produce more than you consume, or producing is greater than consumption. And I don't aim for 51-49 either. I think producing vastly more than you consume should be your goal by default. I mean, unless you have I'm not really sure why you'd have a great reason otherwise, but I just think there's just so much consumption now. We've kind of romanticized consumption to a pretty disgusting extent, both in the literal sense of like eating and in the figurative sense of just like consuming media at a pace that is just unhealthy, and consuming everything at a pace that's unhealthy. So I think producing could be the cure, right? I think people have lost their craft, craftsmanship. We don't have any, there's no medieval village where you can be a blacksmith and you can just make a wonderful sword or a hammer or something. You have to, now you're just kind of watching somebody make stuff all day and just, I don't know, making the shoelace for the shoe instead of like making the whole shoe. And I think we lose a lot of our own dignity in doing that. So, I don't know, produce more than you consume. And in the ways that shows up in my life, it's just these dumbass videos that I make. So, and again, I think this is better than nothing, right? This is not a a movie production quality by any means, but I do think it is good for me to be doing this versus versus just watching videos, right? I don't care if no one watches these. No one actually watches these, like statistically, but I'm more worried about me just falling into a trap of that I see too much of just people over consuming and not producing anything, and I think that weighs more heavily on people's conscience than they might like to admit. So I think a remedy for the overconsumption of our modern society is to produce. So I don't know. Number 32, for God's sakes, like exercise. This is very not abstract advice. This is very concrete. If walking is exercise to you, you're out of shape, or you should be disabled. I don't think walking should be considered exercise. I mean, running can be considered exercise. Lifting weights, playing a sport can be considered exercise. There are even sports that I would debate are exercise. But if your exercise for the day is walking for 10 minutes, you're out of shape, or you're disabled, right? If you're disabled, if you don't have any legs, or if you have one leg or something, that's fair. I get it. We can consider walking in your sport regimen. But for normal people with all their limbs, if walking is exercise to you, you're out of shape, and you need to be doing something else. So just for your own sake, for God's sakes, please just start exercising. I think everybody benefits. You benefit. Everybody wins, right? There's no losing, right? It's a classic. You can just win. Beat your inner psyche telling you not to do it. Just overpower the willpower telling you to just stay home and eat donuts or something. Just start exercising, for God's sakes. It's not that hard of a battle for you to win, right? It's not like I'm asking you to conquer Rome in a day or something. Just get off the couch and go to the gym and do something, right? Just buy a gym membership. That's the first step. And for God's sakes, if you don't have one, I don't know, do something. I don't know. It's just frustrating that I see so many people that treat it as if it's some conquest or something. Only these ridiculously strong-willed people can go exercise. Like, no, it requires almost nothing, and everybody wins if you exercise. So, anyway, number 33, live by the Pareto principles. This is just the 80-20 rule. I'm a huge proponent of the 80-20 rule in a lot of different ways. So this is, the effort splitting. A lot of ways I think about just putting in 80% effort on things that aren't super important to me. So, I've never been much of a student. I guess I don't want to say I'm a terrible student. I think my grades are fine, but I don't really care in the sense that I'm like worried about getting these perfect grades. So I put in about 80%, and most of the time that gets the job done. I'm not going to obsess. In some assignments, I just put in 20%, hoping to get 80% of the results. But yeah, the 80-20 rule is something I think is just kind of a universal law almost in its applicability, or at least it can be treated as such. I'm not saying that mathematically it applies everywhere, but it applies a lot more in places that we might think. So I don't know. I think living by it is a good rule of thumb. 34. Don't like it because it's the best. Love it because it's yours. Part of this is also kind of this disdain of envy and comparison being the thief of joy, like I brought up earlier. Again, the example I think with this is just my car. I love my car. It's a piece of shit. It's a 2007 Toyota Corolla. But I don't want any other car. I don't need to have a better car. I think even if I got a better car, I wouldn't. Again, I don't like it because it's the best. Love it because it's yours. So whatever you have, love it because it's yours, not because it's better than anyone else's, or there's some, my car doesn't need to have a V40 engine or something for me to love it. It's just mine, and for that reason, it's great. Same with my computer. I have a mid to low tier graphics card, but, I could sit here and, bitch about needing a better graphics card and whatever. Not that I never buy a new one, but I love my computer. I think it's great. It's allowed me to do, do all kinds of stuff that I wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And it's not the best, but I love it because it's mine. So I don't know. That's kind of a good attitude to have about it, I think. 35. Hard work pays off. It just doesn't pay off equally. And I think this is just a good thing to get in people's heads, and people see other people that, that worked hard or whatever the hell that means. And I'm not a huge proponent of hard work. I've been clear about that. I think hard work as a saying is just kind of a dumb quote that people use as an excuse for stuff. And I'm not saying it pays off. It's just it doesn't pay off equally, right? So I think hard work, again, whatever the hell that means to you, which I could have arguments about all day. Not saying it's not worth working hard, but it doesn't pay off for everyone in the same way. So don't expect results of your hard work to be the same as anyone else's, or you to have more or less. Maybe your results are better. Who knows? Either way, I just think it's kind of a dumb idea to think that because someone else did something, you can do someone it the same way. I just don't think it pays off equally. So I think just a better, healthier attitude to have than this kind of, why did that happen to me kind of attitude, whatever that might be. But anyway, number 36, favor independence over dependence. So I think this is like an idea from Luke Smith, but he says that next time you're faced with a life decision or something, think about whether or not this makes you more independent or more dependent. Dependent on other people, other things outside your control, whether that be, an external system or external idea of some kind or external person, or it makes you more independent, right? Ability to make your own decisions, to work on your own things. And I think that's a good rule of thumb to apply in a lot of ways. I think people are often so dependent on different other people and other things, and they wonder why they're pissed off or they're unhappy or they're sad all the time. It's because their very life is structured as complete dependence on everything outside of them. So I think part of what might remedy their situation is to be more independent and to favor independence over dependence. And again, this is just my personal philosophy on things. Maybe you think that, communism hasn't been tried perfectly yet or something like that, and dependence on the system could work or something. I don't know. I don't believe in that. So sorry, I guess. But anyway, yeah, favor independence over dependence. Number 37, ask the obvious but not the stupid question. So in the sense that, there are a lot of obvious questions that I try to ask, but I want to be clear. I think they're obvious and they might sound stupid, but the questions themselves, they're not stupid questions. I think they're just obvious questions, which I think there's a key difference between obvious and stupid questions. So I think it's always worth asking the obvious questions. Sometimes they just might sound stupid. So I don't know. That's kind of my thought on that. I don't know, but always ask the obvious, not the dumb questions. Or no, what is it? Ask the obvious, but not the stupid questions. So there are stupid questions. I'm not going to say there's no stupid questions, but sometimes the obvious questions sound stupid. And I don't have great examples of this. I think in my segment, whatever video I covered this, I may have had better examples, but either way, this is just kind of I don't know, belief that I have. So, yeah, let's see. Number 38, social acceptance is for cowards. Do your thing. It's classic nonconformist. You're never chasing social acceptance is frivolous. It is so, it comes and goes so quickly. And you can spend a lifetime to build your reputation and a second to ruin it. It's not even worth all this effort people go into to protect their image, and they end up just kind of digging themselves in. Look about even in the stupid movies that are so lauded for their whatever. Every time the bad guy gets himself into trouble, right? People start hating him, and then what does he do? He tries to pay off some lawyer or something to win back favor of people, and ends up the corruption just doubles every time, and you end up becoming more of a piece of shit than you are to start. So it's not even that the person was bad outright. It's just that they were so blinded by their need to be socially accepted and to win favor of the people or whatever, some person, that they end up becoming the very person that they didn't want, that they weren't, they didn't want to become because they were worried about social acceptance. So I don't know, do your thing. If I'm gonna lose friends over something that I've said or done, they're not my friends anyway. So I don't care. If I'm one word away from losing somebody's respect or favor forever, I think that's built on sand, right? There's not. I think the people that I really respect, there's not one word or one statement or one position they would take that would have me ruin my respect for them forever, right? It would have to be a pattern of something terrible or some, unearthed backstory of this horrible thing that they were doing or some Ponzi scheme or something. I don't even know. But I just think, no, that's just not the way I operate. So I don't know. Social acceptance for cowards. You should do your thing. Number 39. Fuck you and your birthday. No one cares about your birthday. Okay. No one. I mean, most people don't even care about you at all. You know. So fuck you and your birthday. I think birthdays are kind of stupid, but anyway, I don't know. That's just kind of a one-liner that I just want to throw in there. I have a couple of these, so not much other explanation on that. Number 40, a bad plan is better than no plan. And I think this kind of comes back to the perfection idea, is that sometimes we're so caught up in trying to get this perfect plan or this thing together when sometimes you gotta throw together a shitty plan and just run it, see what happens, you know. It's a bad plan, but it's better than nothing. And sometimes that's all you can do. So I don't know, bad plan is better than no plan. I think it's a fair take. Let's see, number 41. You live and die in routines. So this is just part about, you know, day-to-day philosophy. So I think whether your routines are healthy deemed by you or unhealthy deemed by you or by others or by a doctor or something, you live and die by those routines that you make. So if you make a routine of going to the gym and, I don't know, eating healthy food, and you're trying to learn something new every day or whatever kind of, you know, normie little words that make you feel good about whatever your routine is, you know, you kind of live and die by those. But if you also make a routine of drinking every weekend and doing all kinds of bad stuff for your health and, I don't know, just not learning anything and staying at your job forever, you kind of live and die in that routine. I think I see this more just with jobs in general. People get in a routine of going to their job and they just end up dying in some way, whether it be figurative or literal, in that routine that they have going to their job and doing their thing. So I don't know. I think generally you live and die in routines. So that's kind of my take on that. Number 42, there are no rules. You know, this is just kind of, I think, applied to you know, people that are overly bureaucratic in their thought processes. They're like, oh, but there's all these, you know, no, everything that you like, all these, the laws, you know, not saying that go, you know, break every law tomorrow or something like that. I'm just saying that most of what you're concerned about in terms of like, oh, this is, you know, shouldn't be done or do this and that, we made it all up. Okay. Even human rights, something as basic as human rights, we just made it up, right? I mean, humans, it's like saying ant rights or something, right? You know, ants have no right, right? Unless we made it up, you know, we could tell everybody that ants have rights all of a sudden, but that wouldn't make sense because we're not ants. But there's no rules to anything, right? We made them all up. And the ones you want to follow, I think, are up to you. Obviously, I would recommend following, like, the law, I think. Whatever, you know, I think sometimes it's more trouble than it's worth. Not saying that all laws are perfect or good, because a lot of them are really dumb. But not saying they're all bad either. Some good laws out there that, you know, if I were tasked with making laws, I would probably make those laws too. So, but I just want to just clarify that there are no inbuilt, like, you know, there's no rules with any of this. We made it all up. So don't take anything too serious about whether it be, you know, laws or not. But anyway, just anything beyond that. It's just, there are no rules, right? We made it all up. So 43, you know nothing, monkey man. I think this kind of comes back to the same premise, you know. Just look at it from a biological lens. We're all just these monkeys running around making stuff up. So I approach things with a sense of humility. You know, all I know is I know nothing kind of sentiment. I just think I could say it that way and kind of just rip off other people. But the way I phrase it is, you know nothing, monkey man. So I don't know. I think that's just more emblematic of the way I would think about it. So yeah, number 44. Be ashamed of yourself sometimes. I think it's good for you and better for others. This just means that I think shame can play a role. You know, if you feel bad that you did something, don't be like, oh, no, it's okay. You know, I think there's a certain amount of that that's fine, especially if you're in a very vulnerable spot. But sometimes it's okay to be ashamed of yourself too and be like, man, I'm a piece of shit. You know, I'm a real piece of shit. I need to stop doing this. And I think that can be healthy, right? Or people are just so quick to be like, oh, no, it's totally okay. Everything's totally fine. No, sometimes you just got to be hard on yourself and you got to go, you know what? You're a piece of shit. Like, this was bad. You got to do better than that. And, you know, I think it helps being hard on yourself sometimes. But obviously, you know yourself more than I do. So just kind of treat yourself with whatever you need at that time. Some people need an adrenaline punch. Other people don't. I think certain people either fall on the spectrum of you you need to be harder on yourself in the sense that this quote would apply. You need to be more ashamed of yourself. And other times people are the opposite, where they're way too hard on themselves and they need to be more lenient. I just think generally, if you're, whatever your general like ideology is behind it, you're probably need the other one, right? So I tend to be very hard on myself, so I might need more leniency in that regard. But I think other people who are very lenient with themselves, no, it's okay, whoops, I blew up a nursery last week, oops, I'm so quirky. No, I think those people might need to be harder on themselves, and they might need to take this quote more to heart. So I don't know. I think whatever you are, kind of approach it the opposite angle, and maybe you'll find value out of it that way. Number 45, whatever your problem is, buying something is probably not the answer. Classic. If you're having some kind of problem, a trampoline is not going to solve your problems. A car is not going to solve your problems. Buying a house isn't going to solve your problems. A Bugatti, buying a country, doesn't matter. Like, it's not going to solve your problems, right? More likely than not, unless your problem is like, I'm hungry, I need a sandwich. Your solution is probably not going to be, go buy a sandwich. Your problem is probably deeper than that. Some psychological problem you're having that, buying something is not going to help you with. But anyway, that's just kind of my mentality on that. So, number 46, strive to have stupid problems. I talked about this in one of my recent episodes, but I think the litmus test of you having, you doing just fine with your life is if your problems are objectively really stupid. I can say with high certainty that your life is doing just fine. So, I don't know, think about how stupid your problems are, and then that way you can kind of decide, how well am I doing right now? How dumb are my problems, So, I don't know, strive for stupid problems if you want like an easy life. Number 47, you're wrong, but it's not worth it for me to prove it to you. This is just kind of something I've adopted just for my own sanity, is that there's some, times where I totally know I'm right, but in order for me to prove somebody wrong on something, or to even just prove the devil's advocate in me wrong, I would have to, there'd be ends that just wouldn't be worth it. It's just not, it's too much work. It's not worth it. It's not worth it for me to prove myself or this hypothetical person, wrong. So I don't know. That's just kind of something that I apply here and there. Number 48, this is kind of in the gym. Don't train your calves in the gym, for God's sakes. If you want big legs, training your calves directly, you're not going to do anything. I have a whole segment on this. I'm probably going to go into in depth later. But I think your legs are, probably the most important thing to train in the gym. And for God's sakes, don't train your calves. That's like the mark of a complete clown in the gym. So anyway, don't train your calves ever. That'll be all I'm going to say on that for now. Number 49, you're a coin flip away. So stop taking everything so serious. You're kind of a coin flip away from horrible or great things happening to you, right? You could just wake up tomorrow and you could have some terrible brain disease or something. I'm not wishing that upon anybody, but I'm just saying that's a possibility. You could also wake up tomorrow and find the love of your life and be great, and the rest of your life's wonderful. So I just wouldn't take anything too seriously, and don't get too ingrained or caught up in your ability to have control over your life, because you're a coin flip away. So stop taking everything so serious. Number 50, kind of last but not least, cut your own damn grass. Cut your own grass. I have a whole episode on this. So I don't know. You should cut your own grass. Don't buy a Roomba. Don't buy an Alexa. Don't buy any of this crap that's gonna. No. You're not. The illusion of making it easier for you is actually gonna make your life more difficult. Because it'll make you more of a gelatinous little brownie that's gonna sit there and watch Netflix instead of cutting your grass. Go cut your own grass. Okay, take your own trash out. Don't make a robot do it. These are menial activities. These are activities that our ancestors would have dreamt of having, right? And here you are making a machine do it so that you can do what? What's the replacement activity? Watching Netflix? Cut your own damn grass. So, I don't know. And yeah, that's all 50. I'm going to end this on saying that I don't give a fuck about nothing, because that is my classic quote. That's actually number 0. Because I did 1 through 50. That is number 0. Number 0 is I don't give a fuck about nothing. That's just how I am. Anyway, thanks for watching. Appreciate all of the support I've gotten, which admittedly hasn't been that much, but the few people that do watch these videos, I appreciate it. And maybe one day I'll have more subscribers than videos. I think right now, just to make a timestamp on things for my own sanity, this is video number like 95, I think, on the channel, and I'm at 63 subscribers. One day it'll turn around. I think one day I'll get some more. But that's not the point of this. The point of this is just for me to share my own internal monologue and descent, and to document my descent into madness more so. But anyway, thanks for watching. Buckets out. I do not give a fuck about nothing. Peace out.